So guys, this is our gameplay and trailer reaction for Sonic Frontiers, along with our thoughts about the debate going on around this game amongst gamers and fans of the franchise. So in terms of what we know so far, well, it's an upcoming platform game developed by Sonic Team and published by Sega. Development began following the release of Sonic Forces in 2017, and following strong sales but very average reviews of Forces, Sonic Team wanted to take Frontiers in a new direction. The open world aspect of the game is set on Starfall Islands, whilst there are portals to discover that lead to cyberspace environments. Themed areas more confined to a linear direction and maybe more akin to Sonic's past. The general feel and mechanics of the Sonic games of the past look to be there though, and so you'll be boosting, jumping, springing, grinding your way around, but in a slightly different environment aspect to Sonic Frontiers' predecessors. Will this slight fork in the road for Sonic franchise pay off in the future? Or could this be the beginning of the end for the fuzzy blue hedgehog? Joining me to discuss the game as always is my brother Dale. So Dale, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
In terms of the trailers released so far, the official reveal trailer is very brief, as is to be expected, I guess, and the main point it alludes to is the game being open world, which, as you say, is a new concept for a Sonic game. To be honest, I'm surprised it's taken them this long to move to an open world concept, but this is a big move away from the series' roots, so I guess they had to be ready to take a big risk here. The Tokyo Game Show trailer shows some of the actual gameplay, so we get more of an idea of the direction they're going with this one. What stood out to me from this trailer is that it feels like it's straight from the mid-2000s with the gameplay shown and the graphic style. The music playing over the trailer doesn't help it either, and it really feels kind of dated immediately, which is odd for a new game coming out this year. Sonic is such a unique game series in many ways, and to be honest, I'm not entirely convinced it will work so well as an open world game, but let's hope I'm wrong on that point.
Well, there's so much talk about the game environment being compared to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild following a comment by the developers. I can't really speak much on this as I haven't played Breath of the Wild. I'm guessing the developers just referred to the game to give Sonic fans an idea of what the environment will be like. However, this does seem to have been taken a lot further on social media than probably what it should have been. I have to admit, I haven't played a Sonic game since Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast in 1998, and that's the only 3D Sonic game I've played. This is largely down to the fact that the 3D Sonic games that followed Sonic Adventure seem to get such mixed or average reviews that I couldn't bring myself to sit through them and potentially ruin my Sonic gaming experience I'd had with the 2D Sonic the Hedgehog games in the early 90s, and the 3D one being Sonic Adventure. Sonic Adventure was a great game. It took the best aspects of the 2D Sonic games of the early 90s and amalgamated them into a 3D environment that worked for the most part. But following Sonic Adventures has always felt like Sonic Team just couldn't quite get the mechanics of a 3D Sonic to work. From a sales aspect, the follow-up games did well, but I think that was largely down to the Sonic franchise name and the anticipation of a great game. In reality, I don't think the game quality was reflective of the sales, and the mixed reviews from gamers and critics alike reflect this. It's felt like Sonic Team had been dining out on the Sonic name with tons of games across various consoles and handhelds without actually really nailing the game mechanics. With Sonic Frontiers looking like it's taken a different route to all the others, it's got me re-interested in the franchise, so let's hope it performs. So in terms of my thoughts on the gameplay footage, I do like the idea of an open world environment on Starfall Island. However, I'm actually disappointed with the looks of the implemented grinding, climbing, springing and various other paraphernalia dotted around the island. It looks like a player modded game board has been implemented from GTA 5. Nothing blends in and everything seems at odds with the environment, which is of course deliberate in GTA. From the rails floating in the air to the futuristic looking wall ride bits and springers and boost pads that contrast too harshly against the ancient looking stone towers. Nothing looks like it's meant to be and looks like they're trying to blend random assets into the game. If the island is meant to be futuristic, make it all that way. If it's meant to be ancient, then likewise. The blend of the two just doesn't work for me. It feels too forced.
In terms of my thoughts on the gameplay footage, well, the IGN gameplay trailer made me feel similar to the Tokyo Game Show trailer in that it doesn't seem like a 2022 game in terms of the graphics. I get that this may have had to be toned down due to the fast-paced nature of the Sonic games, but it really does look quite bad in my opinion. That aside, the trailer shows many of the classic Sonic gameplay elements, as Dav mentioned, such as collecting rings and power-ups, but it otherwise just feels a little soulless and bland. The distant shots look pretty ridiculous at times, with all sorts of random objects floating around in the sky around the island, and it actually looks a bit amateurish, I think. Some of the object placements just look out of place entirely. Apparently the IGN trailer may be an early build of the game, so we'll have to see how it looks on release. The main quest is expected to be around 20 to 30 hours to finish, while finding all collectibles could apparently take as much as 60 hours. although I'd be a bit concerned that the completionist aspect could then become a major grind.
So in terms of thoughts on graphics and environment, I really don't like the look of the graphics in this. Everything looks so blurry. Maybe it's to do with the speed at which Sonic moves and the way the game processes that so that the environment keeps up. Either way, I don't particularly like them. It gives me a headache just watching the gameplay demo, let alone actually playing it. Maybe I'm just getting old. The footage so far shows a lot of glitchy, buggy aspects that I hope will be sorted out for the final release. A buggy, unfinished mess seems to be far too common a theme amongst released games nowadays, with developers spending the next 1 to 3 years patching the game bugs following the release. Fortunately, I could go on forever mentioning games that this is happening with.
Yeah, as I already touched on, the graphics in the gameplay trailer do look disappointing, but hopefully this is just because it's an early build and not the finished product. The environment really doesn't look great in the trailers, unfortunately. Seem to have really had difficulty with the design of Sonic in recent years, with all the controversy surrounding the first designs of him in the recent film. But I'm not really sure why they're struggling so much with this. He's such a unique looking character, so just keep him looking as he always has, just in a 3D version.
So in terms of my thoughts on story, the game narrative appears to be somewhat under wraps, but from what we've gleaned so far, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles and Amy Rose are sucked through a wormhole and Sonic becomes separated from the others, landing on a mysterious island. You're then guided to collect Chaos Emeralds and find Sonic's friends.
Yeah, there's limited info on the story at the moment, so really not much to add there.
In terms of my thoughts on mechanics, as with the other Sonic games, you navigate the environment sometimes at high speed, jumping, boosting, springing, grinding your way around, helped by the boost pads, springers, rails and platforms that are placed around the environment. You collect floating gold rings amongst other collectibles as you navigate the environment. Sonic has abilities that help you get around, including double jump, boost, drop dash and sidestep. Some new abilities including combat attacks, wall running and side loop, an ability that creates a circle of light around objects to interact with them. The game has enemies from small robots to huge bosses that you battle, and defeating enemies gains the player experience points that could be spent on additional abilities. Defeating the bosses also gets the player pieces of portals, which when fully assembled allow Sonic to enter cyberspace. The cyberspace environments are linear levels more akin to previous Sonic games, which switch between third-person and side-scrolling perspective to navigate the levels. These linear environments contain goals and challenges with red rings to collect that reward players with the key to access a Chaos Emerald. Collecting Chaos Emeralds allows Sonic to transform into Super Sonic.
Yeah, the mechanics seem mostly what you'd expect from a Sonic game, with all the usual collection of rings and power-ups that are core to the Sonic gameplay. There are also new abilities that include combat attacks, running alongside walls, and as Dav mentioned, using the side loop to create a circle of light around objects and interact with them.
So in terms of my final thoughts on this one, I'm really not sure about this one. It seems that there are people out there crazy about the Sonic franchise and are so hyped up about the game. I've seen others that have played the demo at recent events and come away not so sure about it. For me, I think it's one that I'll wait and see on. I'm certainly not going to rush to buy it. I like the idea of it and the way, if done well, it may take Sonic in a different realm in future and ultimately secure the franchise's future. However, I'm not impressed by what I've seen with the gameplay so far. In my opinion, the weird combination of parts making up the open world environment, the not so great blurry looking graphics, obvious glitchy and buggy aspects shown off, but not in a good way, in the gameplay footage, and potential overhypedness of the game are all making me think that this game could go either way. I feel like the quality of the demo gameplay footage out there so far is something that should be shown 6 months to a year prior to a game's release, not just a matter of weeks. It makes it feel like it's still massively unfinished, unless of course the development team are keeping a lot back, which either way concerns me, I'm afraid. Currently, for me, jury's out on this one.
In terms of my final thoughts, well, I certainly hope they're able to make this open world concept work for the series and perhaps give it a bit of a reboot. Feels like the series has mostly gone downhill in recent years, and I think they really need this to be as polished as possible before it's released. It's already been delayed from 2021 to 22 for quality control reasons, as they put it, and this is always a slight concern. In terms of the new direction they're taking, I get they need to take the series in this new direction, but I feel they could end up with another Sonic 06 here and be at risk of losing all credibility for the series if they're not careful. Hopefully this won't be the case, and if they can refocus their direction like many other long-lasting series such as Mario and Zelda, they show that a series can be kept fresh if done properly, so fingers crossed for this one.
Well guys, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment. Hit that bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video, and we'll see you in the next one.